What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. So I've been enjoying some of the internet saltiness online, and boy, I gotta tell you, this is so nice to see that all of the console warriors are now jumping on one another with 30 FPS just after we got the news that Marvel's Spider-Man, and this is not official because even though this was put up and then taken down, it can still be changed. Things can still change. That's not necessarily my concern in this video because until I see the evidence from Insomniac themselves, that's when I'm going to believe the performance for Spider-Man 2. I'm not going to sit here and take that bait. However, I want to laugh a little bit at some of these folk that are throwing shade at one another because they're doing something very interesting. Those of you who've watched this channel for a long time, you've seen my videos where I actually put these little quotes on the PlayStation and Xbox, boxes, basically your Series X box and your PS5 box, and you get to see these little claims: 8K, 4K, HDR, and then on the Xbox it says 4K gaming at up to 120 FPS with an asterisk. You got to scroll down to read that asterisk part, but everyone is now using these things to throw shade at one another. Here I sit laughing because I remember, ladies and gentlemen, around this time, a lot of folk were pretty much making fun of everything that you could say the moment they found out that Gotham Knights was going to be running at 30 FPS on consoles. Granted, at launch, the very first build that was dropped had a lot of issues in terms of stability, but the developers stabilized the game. They put it in the right spot where it needed to be, and the performance is running smooth anywhere you're playing it right now. But at that time, there were multiple concerns about the game. There were gameplay, story, mechanics, RPG or not. All of those concerns were there in the conversation, but one of them stood out to me. And that was the conversation that a lot of people said, oh, 30 FPS in this day and age is actually a very bad thing. I remember that conversation because I know some people have tried to maybe move the goalpost and say things like, well, nobody really, bothered about 30 FPS with, Gotham Knights. Nah, you're not going to play that game with me. I have receipts. If you want, I have an entire playlist of Gotham Knights videos. You can go through and read the comments and see how I got lambasted, called a shill. People told me that Warner Brothers was paying me money. I remember your gamer tags and even some of your YouTube usernames as well. Yes, y'all told me that. But one thing about being able to sound the alarm is sometimes you can sound the alarm and you'll be called crazy. But it's nice to see that as much as the console war continues to, reverb and a lot of the, shrapnel is flying everywhere, you eventually start to see the reality. A lot of people are saying things like, if you go here, Payo, who's basically talking something yesterday, is saying there's, some people that claim that they don't see the difference between 30 and 60 FPS. In my opinion, go see DR. Imagine someone says they can't see the difference between 720 and 4K. Payo, that's not necessarily, a genuine argument. There are people who just don't notice. They've played at 30 FPS for a long time, and in their minds, they're just not really tuned to seeing too much of a difference between the FPS. Now, do they experience it differently, or that they're just not aware, or maybe the way their visual mind works and such? There are people that possibly are like that. I mean, you haven't surveyed everyone, nor have you tested everyone, so you must leave room for that. What's funny, too, is just a few hours ago, probably less than 24 hours ago, Payo said something that I thought was really funny. He said, this generation, 60 FPS is the new standard over 30 FPS. 120 FPS mode is the new 60 FPS mode. There should always be an option for 60 FPS. 30 FPS should never be the only option for PS5/Series X. Ladies and gentlemen, I replied and said, you can't speak performance into existence, even if Microsoft and Sony attempt to goad you into doing it with those 4K 120 FPS claims. This was August 14th, and here they are. Per rules. This one, they jump immediately on top of anything they can. And then even J-Dub, I know you're trolling, so I'm just going to leave you alone a little bit. But thanks for this picture, though. You kind of helped me. I didn't have to go too far. And there it is, 4K up to 120 FPS. Yes, sir. But that probably will not be the case for every single video game. Spider-Man may come out actually doing better. That's why I'm waiting for Insomniac, before I say, okay, that this is the conclusion, because I know a lot of these console warriors don't wait. They just jump on whatever news to fight one another. And here they are already throwing shade at each other. That's not how I roll. I want to see them actually say that this is going to be the case. In the case of Spider-Man, I want to see what Insomniac says about it before I draw my conclusions. But until then, I think if you're complaining about Gotham Knights for being 30 FPS, you probably don't have much of a case, because the game actually has a bigger scope than Spider-Man does because of its co-op and its multiplayer aspect in terms of a gameplay execution side. Now, yes, Spider-Man will have the visuals, have a lot of really interesting things, a simple combat, but by and large, I think a lot of people are going to go back and pick this game up and say, let me see what the fuss was all about. And many of them are going to be surprised how very short-sighted they were when they were actually judging this game, because, you know, some YouTuber with a nice camera and a bunch of subscribers made stupid claims when they had no technical knowledge at all as to how video games are developed. Those of us who have put in the work, those of us who are in the, shadows, basically sitting there overnight, learning game development. I know a lot of content creators that make YouTube videos that have been doing this, learning what the secrets of the trade are as much as they can in an industry that is very secretive about its ways. We look like crazies when we actually said these things, but I'm so glad that the truth is finally coming out. That's one thing about the truth. It can basically take its time, but eventually it's going to dawn. So let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.